cases removed from those courts. What ideas does the state's attorney's office have for making sure that we fill those courts and we see the effectiveness?
Sure. I mean, I think it is definitely a priority for our office. We do have, as my colleague will tell you, we do have several state's attorneys in many different diversion courts. It is still a priority for our office. The real change in policy is just as regards gun cases going forward. But yes, I mean, we believe in the system. We believe it's a worthwhile program. And going forward, I anticipate that we will still cooperate as we have up to this point.
So just to clarify, understand, like things like thefts that are happening that are nonviolent, or any nonviolent activities that happen, perhaps at like a team event, are those types of the courts? I guess they have to be over 18. So
they have to be 18 to 26, and if they're under that, then they might be going to juvenile court.
Yep.
But yes, I mean, any nonviolent offense where we feel like there's opportunity for rehabilitation, short of going through the criminal justice system, which can be difficult, we think it's worthwhile.
Great. And then just one other question: is there any thought about expanding the age range, or expanding like the encapturement area? Who can, or is that not a coming attorney session?
I would defer to my colleague here.
Have you heard of anything yet?
Yes. The answer is yes. Yes, amount of cases into our 4 courts. And Chief Judge is planning to open 2 or 3 more restorative justice courts. However, we need to know first if we will have cases for this court. So that's the main question. That's why I'm trying to answer this question very you're at the
carefully.
You get the point. And yes, we are at least in Avondale. We are constantly enlarging our catchment area. We started with Avondale, Logan Square, Portage Park, and Belmont Craig. Right now, we are accepting cases from Humboldt Park. We are also accepting cases from Albany Park. Yeah, mostly. And we are planning to expand the catchment area. That's the solid yes. Thank you. And another thing is we have a lot of cases of people currently that have FOID cards and they still were arrested because they didn't have concealed carry. Because this is the entire process. So FOID card is not allowing a person to
walk the streets.
Yeah. So that's why this is extremely important. And also in RJCCs currently, we are very aware of that having just FOID card is not everything. The same like you're driving a car, having a driver's license is one thing, but you also need all city sticker, plate sticker, and insurance to be a responsible driver. All right. So we really press a huge accent of it to inform people about it. All of them have assignments, how to be responsible, all people who have gun cases, how to be a responsible gun owners. We are sending them to also is the Alliance of Local Services organizations, but the name is also, so it sounds the acronym is also. Anyway, so they have a special gun education classes for people who would like to learn more about it, how to be a responsible gun owner. And every person who is coming to us with gun charges in the repair of harm agreement, they have this requirement to complete a program, to have the knowledge what it means to be a responsible gun owner in the state of Illinois, which is not only a FOID card, it's also a concealed carry.
Thank you. before I put up with questions, I want to say thank you very much, Ethan, for sharing that information. And now we would like to open up to community questions. So,
Does anybody have any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
So, numbers on my slide, I don't know if you can that.
Sure.
But the one that says that there were 50 cases filed.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, after that, like, any of those two convictions, they were dismissed?
So we don't know yet. It takes a while for those cases to come through. This is in the felony review bypass program.
Right.
Yeah. So far, 50 cases have been filed. 37 of those cases have reached the preliminary hearing or been indicted in the grand jury. Of all of the cases that have got to those two ways to initiate a case, they've all been either found to have probable cause or been delivered a true bill at the grand jury. So we think that it's working the way it should.
So you don't have numbers like comment or then, like, say, decrease to like a misdemeanor?
No, I mean, we're not, I'm sure those numbers are being tracked, but again, the program hasn't been, you can use this, Jeff.
this is for the people here that.
Okay. It takes a while for a criminal case to wind its way through the court system, and this program is fairly new. So I'm sure we will be keeping track of, because every case is different, right? And we have to look at the facts of every case differently, and every defendant is different, and the context of every case is different, and we look at all of that when we decide how we're going to dispose of a case, right? If we're going to trial, if there's going to be a plea agreement, if there's going to be a reducer, we'll look at all the aggravation in the case, we'll look at all the mitigation in the case, right? That's delivered to us from defense attorneys and public defenders, because people are different and they're situated differently. So we want to take that all into account. We don't want justice to look like one size fits all.
One quick follow-up about these numbers.
Yep.
So my understanding of the bypass program is that charges are filed directly by police, and then they are still reviewed by the state's attorney's office at the preliminary hearing. Is that right?
Correct, or at the grand jury.
Or at the grand jury. So here, 50 cases have been filed, but only 37 reached the preliminary grand jury. So what happens in those cases that did not reach?
So the prelim doesn't happen like immediately after, and they're not indicted immediately after. So 50 have been filed, but so far 37 have reached the preliminary hearing stage or the grand jury stage. And the other thing to remember, folks, is that misdemeanors do not go through felony review, right? Police officers will file a misdemeanor case, and we will get it in misdemeanor court and make determinations about how we're going to proceed on misdemeanors. This is only for felony cases, and literally only for these two Chicago police districts at the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just had a short question. Is there any connection between the different state's attorneys and the police departments? Is there any connection at all?
Connection in terms of what?
Do they refer anything to you in any way?
Well, in felony cases, yes. So we not only have the city cases, we have courthouses in Skokie, Rolling Meadows, Maywood, Bridgeview, and Markham. Those courthouses, if you think about it, so like, for instance, the Skokie courthouse would deal with all of those northern suburbs, right? So all the cases coming out of the northern suburbs would go to the Skokie courthouse, and yes, we have a very close relationship with all the law enforcement officials and all of those, as well as I personally worked in Markham at the beginning of my career, and so all of those south suburbs, Rock Village, where there's an RJCC, Harvey, Calumet City, about 25 to 30 of those southern things. So yes, we have very close relationships with them. When they have a felony that's committed in their town, they will call it into felony review. We will review it. We will make a determination whether that case will proceed. And there's three things that can happen when a case is called into felony review. It can be approved, it can be rejected, or it can be what we call CI, which is a continuing investigation. Sure.
Okay, can you hear me?
It's for the internet. We can hear you. Just
Oh, okay.
if you can hold it to your mouth.
The understanding I'm getting that the other 13 cases that didn't go between all hell for trial and stuff are probably thrown out because it wasn't justifiable.
No.
They weren't thrown out.
No.
No. Okay.
They just haven't gotten to that stage yet. They haven't gotten a prelim yet, and they haven't or been indicted.
Okay. So far, 13.
So we don't know what's going to happen with those, but so far, the ones that have gone have
I see.
had probable cause or been indicted by a grand jury.
I see. Okay.
So I guess the short answer to that is we feel like the program is working the way it should. We hope that Chicago police are being more efficient and they're being able to be out in the streets where they can do the most good, not waiting to hear from felony review to either approve or reject or continue an investigation. So far, I think that the data is positive.
Okay. And you are, as you said before, for us getting together to expand the RJCC throughout the community of Chicago.
So the RJCC is, and I will defer to my colleague, is run by the Office of the Chief Judge. Obviously, we are a participant in it. But yes, there are 4 right now. And
like I said, I understand the 4 Avondale, North Lawndale, and all of that and stuff. I'm from Lakeview, and I care about the whole world. But yet, still, I live right here, and I see a lot of criminal activity amongst the youngsters and stuff that's occurring here. And I'm fearful for the fact that I live in a senior building and put their hands on seniors, and I'm worried about retaliation from the seniors and someone getting hurt. I done went to the 19th District Police Station and stuff, and they actually said that in order for any crime to be reported, the person that got the crime done to them have to report it. I can't report it. Understandable, because you don't go by he say, she say.
Sure.
So that's the only thing I wanted to know, was it going to be expanded to all communities, or you was going to try on expanding it?
I guess my answer is every person in the city of Chicago deserves to be safe, right? And we feel like this is a worthwhile and worthy program. And while it's not our decision, we would be supportive of that because we feel like it is a good and worthwhile program.
It is. Thank you very much.
Of course.
I think we have one more question.
Thank you.
A couple more questions.
Thank you.
I want to presume that I'm being asked the question, I guess. Yeah.
I guess it's for anybody, I guess. So I'm just kind of trying to square the stats, and I know that obviously I only have a precursory understanding of this, but if 82% of the RJCC cases were nonviolent gun possession cases, and there's only a 13% recidivism rate, that seems like a really good success to me. And I think you kind of touched on this when you were answering one of the initial questions, that the FOID potential statute or program to me seems like something that would be good folded into the repair of harm agreement instead of something that stands on its own, because it sounds like more of that less of getting at the root cause and more of just finding a solution to one element of these problems. So I'm just wondering what the I don't know what the thought behind not going that way was, and instead diverting the gun cases out of the RJCC courts totally, instead of folding this FOID statute or requirement into those.
Sure. So we're not taking the gun cases that are currently in the RJCC out. It's not retroactive, but our administration feels that the gun cases are just not appropriate. It's not conducive for the circle process. We think that victim cases are more appropriate for the circle process. Having said that, I still think that, you know, we want to be smart about how we treat these cases. We want to make sure that people get educated, that they don't have consequences that are going to follow them for the rest of their life if they make a mistake. So, you know, you make a very good point. We just don't feel like the circle process is appropriate for guns. But we also don't, you know, feel like we should be, you know, prosecuting them to the fullest extent of the law. We think that there's a middle ground, and we feel like this first offender weapons program, as well as the new FOID legislation, is really going to capture a lot of those folks that probably would otherwise end up in an RJCC, and hopefully get, you know, the same kind of services, right? The same kind of education, the same kind of support that they would get.
If I could add to, or just my own thoughts on, you know, one of the benefits of restorative justice processes, I'm interested, Dr. Margaret, in your thoughts as well, is that it allows for accountability between a victim and an offender in a way that our traditional criminal justice system really doesn't. So it does make some sense to me that a lot of these gun possession crimes that don't have a victim in particular, it's just someone who's picked up with a gun, there's not a victim there. There's no one person who is harmed to make an agreement with, and that those cases that do have someone who is a victim in this case can really benefit from the peace circle process, because they could actually confront the person who harmed them. They can actually get the accountability that often can be quite lacking in a more impersonal criminal justice system that doesn't allow that kind of interaction and frankly, ability to say how you were harmed, get apologies, create a plan for the future to prevent that harm. So I'm interested in your thoughts, Dr. Margaret, on that victim-offender dynamic in restorative justice.
Very good.
Yeah, sorry, I'm working it out. This one works.
Hello.
Hang on.
It just takes a minute. Very good question. You touched a few aspects here. First is the aspect of victimless crime. In restorative justice philosophy, there is no victimless crimes. Why is that? Because every crime has consequences. Sometimes the offender is victim. They hurt themselves. Community is the victim. How we feel about, like, one of our community members just mentioned how he feels about what's going on in his community. So we all can feel like this, what's going on in our community harm us in a certain way. I particularly do not like the word victim, because I think it's, nobody would like to be a victim, right? But we are touched by what's going on in our block, what's going on in our community. When we talk to people who are coming to our court, quite often they realize in the circle process that they are the victims of their own actions. Their family is a victim of their own action. The fact that they spent few nights or nights at the police station, it was not okay for their family members and not okay for them. They realized that. So this is the philosophy of restorative justice, that there's not really victimless crime, because every crime do a harm. So this is one aspect. Another aspect, you asked about dynamic between victims and offenders. And this is something that it's also a well-known fact. People who are touched by crime or affected by crime, they don't want to come and talk about it or go through it again quite often. So far, we had a few cases with victims. And usually I reach to these people. I reach out to them, and the first conversation was very tough. They didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want to tell me what's going on, what happened, how they felt about it. And then after the third conversation, I was able to really build the relation with them, that we were able to talk about how they feel about what happened to them and their families. And they all were invited to come to the peace circles. However, from many reasons, and this reason was also mentioned here, people don't like to be confronted. We don't like confrontation, so they refuse to come to peace circle. However, they fully understand the process, what the offender is going through or the participant is going through. And they agree with that, and they said that it will be better if this person will repair for the harm done to them. So what we do in the circumstances when the person who was harmed don't want to come to the peace circle, don't want to participate, we use surrogate victim. What is that? As I mentioned, I contact the person, I ask them how they felt about what happened, about this incident, and about this crime, how they are feeling now about it, and what will satisfy them. Those three things. And sometimes they are able to tell me that in the third or fourth conversation. How they felt about it, when it happened, how they feel about it now, and what will satisfy them. What is the best resolution for them? How's this case, how we can close the chapter, move on, so everybody is fine, what they have to do, and what the participant who's coming to the court have to do. And they send me an email or I take their statements. And later, I serve as a surrogate victim in a circle or somebody else. We have people who would like to do it, and they read this statements. And this statements are fully evaluated in this circle and discussed in this circle. And I can tell you about few cases who already were completed, they were dismissed. For example, it was a case where somebody damaged a property and the person just want them not to come, not to be on this block. That's it. This person that the person harmed gave us a huge statement about how they feel about it, how they felt about it before, but they just want them to not to be on this block anymore. They don't want to see them anymore. Right? But we have another case when people requested buying the school supplies for local school for children who are in the local school. And they said that they want this participant to buy school supply for $50. Because in this particular area, the children who are going and students who are going to this school are from poor families. So that's what was their request, to support these kids in this school. And it was great. And the participant who was in the peace circle, they agreed to it. And they said that they will contribute $100 and they'll buy. Yeah, the circle process is really a healing process. It takes huge courage to admit what happened and apologize for it. And that's what's going on in circles. So I don't want to take a lot of your time. I hope I answered your question. But is the dynamic between victims. I don't know how right now. I think we'll have more so-called physical people who are touched by crime, and we'll be reaching out to them. And if they would like to participate in the peace circles, that's the process that is open to them.
Okay, unfortunately, we do have to keep going just because we're near 8 o'clock and we don't want to be inconveniencing our hosts. So we're going to keep on moving. Now it's time for public comment, but we also want to hear from any community groups. If you can please keep it short, as we are running a long time. But if there's community group here that wants to announce anything or any event that's coming up, now is the time to do that.
Okay.
Here you go, John. You can on what's mine.
Yeah, if you just want to know about community events, and thank you for that. I'm the vice president of the East Lake Neighbors Association. and we're having a social, actually, it has nothing to do with crime. We're having a social get together, folks, at the Lark, Club, the Lark Tavern, 3441 North Halsted, on the 1st of May, next week. So that's our event. We're trying to draw people in and tell them about what we're doing, and have neighbors get to know each other. That's
What time?
Yeah, it starts at 5, it's from 5 to 7 at Lark, 3441 North Halsted.
Thank you very much. Thanks, John.
May 1st,
May
Thursday,
1st.
May 1st.
All right, public comment. Just a couple of rules of engagement. Just making sure our screen's still going. 2 minutes per speaker. If you have not made a request to make a public comment, please see Anna in the back, and she'll hand me a note. And we will start with the first speaker, and we have our lovely timer here. So our first speaker, Clarence Easton. When you come up, just please state your name for the record.
I already spoke, and the question that I had brought up, that was my comment that I was making about my community. But I appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Lance. Next is Lauren Burdette, who's no longer here, and I think we have one speaker. All right, Claire Sharkey.
Hi, my name is Claire Sharkey. I live in the North Center neighborhood. I want to use my time to speak just on the felony review bypass program. First of all, Ethan, thank you for explaining as much as you did. I think this program is so important. This is one of the reasons I voted for Eileen O'Neill Burke. She promised to help get guns off the streets. I don't think there's anyone who would argue with getting guns off the streets. We need that done. It's a huge problem in Cook County. So she took this step with Superintendent Snelling to get it done. So now the police have this tool to take guns off the streets. It makes perfect sense. The slide that we were talking about, I found an article, the number was 50 cases or something. Mm-hmm. There was an article I read this morning on WGN that explains a little bit why there was 50 filed, but only 37 made it to preliminary, whatever. So Eileen O'Neill Burke says here, every single one of the bypass cases out of the 7th district where the program started has made it through preliminary hearing, which means they are solid cases, which means that is what we would expect from this program. So then earlier this month, the program was expanded to the 5th district. So maybe that's where those 13 are, they haven't made it yet, so we can't really determine how those are gonna play out. Is that correct?
Sure. I mean, so far we don't know whether they're going to be finding a probable cause or whether they'll get a true bill. Correct. Yeah, they're still in the process. Yep.
So Superintendent Snelling said that before this program was enacted, and still in the districts where it's not enacted, when a police officer pulls someone over or catches someone with an unlawful gun, that officer is off the streets for sometimes 6 to 8 hours in order to go through felony review. They have to, and an officer in the 19th district explained this to me, they have to call the state's attorney and sometimes wait for hours to get the charges through. So that officer is off the beat. So in the 19th district, let's say, I'll just give examples of what's happening around here. There was a murder.
Try to wrap it up.
Sorry. Anyone else?
No, but it's two minutes per speaker, so that's those little rules. So, I'm sorry.
You can wrap it up.
You can wrap it up. Yeah, finish that. Yeah.
So when you talked about the efficient allocation of police resources, mm-hmm. So if our police officers are off the streets filing these gun charges, waiting for a state's attorney to literally answer the phone and prosecute according to the law, we don't have police officers doing what they need to do, keeping us safe. So this program makes perfect sense, and I hope that it is expanded across the county. And I commend everyone working at the state's attorney's office right now for pushing this, and CPD, because it was Superintendent Snelling that, made this decision, if I'm correct, in tandem with Eileen O'Hilbert. So this is so important. I think everyone needs to understand how important it is. And I would like to hear, council, if you have a second to tell us where you guys stand on this program.
Thanks, Claire.
Can I just clarify one thing?
Sharky.
Can I clarify one thing?
Sure, please, go ahead.
So when a case gets called into felony review, they're not just waiting for an ASA to answer the phone. We obviously, our ASAs work 12-hour shifts. Some work the day shift, some work the night shift. Frequently what happens is we have murders that we have to go out on. We have other cases that involve victims that are serious cases that kind of sap our ability to respond faster, right? So it's not that we're just kind of not doing that, like we're responding. Having said that, gun cases, you're right, are absolutely important, and we don't want Chicago police officers to be waiting to get a call back from felony review for an ASA to review the case. But I don't want you to get the impression that we're just not answering the phone. We are very busy. And we're just working on other cases, murders and sexual assaults and all kinds of cases. So I just wanted to clarify that. But thank you, Claire. Appreciate it.
And Claire, to answer your question, I think that we still need to hear make sure that the data keeps proving that it's going to be okay. As far as I've heard and what I've seen, I think I am in favor of this as well. I will say I've attended a session on this in the 7th district. And one thing that was disappointing to residents there was that there was not a lot of communication ahead of time with those residents. And I do think that that is something that's unfortunate, because I think it caused a lot of confusion and a lot of uncertainty around what it was. It does seem like there's a lot of really surefire, I don't know the word, but like certainties that those cases are not going to be the cases that are going to be where they are going to be guilty of the crime. It's like they have the gun, they have a video of the officer seeing the single person with the gun. So I am not concerned right now about the cases. We'll have to continue to see what the data shows. But like I said, from hearing from residents in the 7th district where it was rolled out, having their participation in it would have just made that transition a little bit easier for them.
And I largely agree. It's a very new program. It does seem to be off to a promising start. I'm always skeptical of making any judgments based on something that's only been in place for 2.5 months. So I'm really interested to see how the numbers continue to play out. Very much in favor of officers being able to not be taken off their beats to deal with this kind of administrative work for hours at a time, recognizing that the Felony Review Division does work extremely hard. And they serve an important function, making sure that the cases that are charged in our courts actually can meet the government's burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime was committed. As Jenny was just saying, a lot of these cases that seem to be in this bypass program are those where the elements of the crime, that you have a gun and you don't have the proper paperwork or you're under some certain other status, are pretty simple, and ones that can be charged on site by officers pretty easily. So that seems to make sense to me, but again, I'm interested to see how it continues to play out over time.
One other thing I just will add is that my major concern is to make sure that the RJCCs stay active and are able to serve community in the way that they have been. And really, we see the effects in the recidivism rate that come out of this RJC. So I'm really more about if there are not gun cases going there any longer, what are the cases that we're going to put in there to fill the spots that are crucial, I believe, to our community.
Are we gonna keep going? Just a couple more slides. Just reminders and calls to action. As Jenny mentioned, she wants to formally invite you this Friday to attend the Avondale Justice Community Court. So please sign up. There's a QR code here. You can also visit our website for more information there. And
they just ask that you do sign up with me so that we can give Margaret a list of who's attending just for their seats, because it's a small, cozy little.
10:30 a.m. 3647 West George.
As a reminder, we did a whole presentation about CARE program. CARE is a mental health crisis response that's available in the 19th. We did a whole thing on it last month, but we're continuing to ask people to get involved by emailing the mayor as well as the commission to let them know that this is an important program that you hope sees continued. I'm happy to talk to you more about that. So is Dr. Linda over here. She's an expert as well and can share information on that. But there's a one pager back there that we encourage you to grab and read about. Oh, and there's a picture of the one pager.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, these will be available online. These pictures lead to those exact one pagers of the slides. So just know that there are more resources if you access this presentation.
And last thing, real quick, we just want to remind you that we are here. We're always interested and willing and ready to talk to community. We're going to be tweaking this a little bit to talk to community, but we are available. Just email us and we can find a time and a place to meet.
And I want to thank our host, Roger, here at the Nano Center. Thank you so much. This is always a beautiful space. Thank you for hosting us. And I'm going to ask for the next meeting, May 28th, at Uptown Church. And again, I want to thank our great speakers, Director Ethan Holland and Dr. Margaret Lugiani. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that.
And thank you very much for now.
Thank you guys again. Yeah, thank you so much.